This is in response to the video I posted earlier in the week. For those of you who obviously didn't catch what I was throwing the first time, perhaps this will, at the very least, broaden your perspective a bit. Let's cut the nonsense right now. Congresswoman Nancy Mace didn't just embarrass herself with that profanity-laced outburst in a South Carolina store. She exposed exactly why so many Black Americans still walk through this country holding their breath. Sure, Nancy might have thought she was having her big own the libs moment. She probably strutted out of that store proud of herself for standing up to a man who dared to politely ask if she would be holding a town hall. But let's talk about what Black America saw. A white woman screaming, cursing, playing the victim while accusing a man who was standing yards away of threatening her. Now, that man happened to be white, which is the only reason things didn't escalate into something far uglier. Let's be real. If that man had been Black, we all know how this would have gone down. The second Nancy opened her mouth and unleashed that banshee shriek of, "Get the F-bomb away from me," somebody would have whipped out a phone, called 911, and before he could blink, there would have been police storming in, hands on guns, ready to neutralize the threat. And don't tell me I'm being dramatic. Don't you dare, because we've seen it happen, over and over and over. Emmett Till was 14 years old when a white woman's lies got him lynched and mutilated beyond recognition outside of Bryant's Grocery and Meat Market in Money, Mississippi. George Stinney, another 14-year-old child, was executed by the state of South Carolina after a kangaroo court convicted him in 10 minutes flat for crimes he didn't commit. Trayvon Martin was hunted down and killed for the crime of walking while Black in a hoodie. And in a neighborhood his executioner thought he had no business being in because of the color of his skin. That's not ancient history. That's not the distant past. That is the blood running through the streets we still walk today. Nancy Mace's meltdown wasn't some isolated slip of the tongue. It was a flashing red warning sign. The way white fear, even when completely unfounded, can weaponize itself instantly, without consequence, and always at the deadly expense of Black lives. It doesn't matter that the man she cursed out was white this time. What matters is that Nancy knew she could yell, curse, scream, and act a fool in public without worrying for 1 second that it would cost her anything, and that's the privilege Black America never gets to have. Had a Black man asked her that same polite question, stood the same respectful distance away, and gotten that same feral reaction, he might not have walked out of that store alive. Folks who grew up spending summers down south, folks like me, know better than to think we're imagining things. We were raised with the warnings. We saw the pictures. We heard the whispers about what happens when you're Black and somebody white decides you don't belong where you are. No, America, we have not overcome. We haven't moved past racism. We haven't even come close. Because every time a congresswoman like Nancy Mace opens her mouth and attacks someone with that reckless, weaponized tongue of hers, it pulls us right back into that same terrifying playbook Black folks have been surviving under for generations. And don't think for a second we didn't notice how Nancy used to pretend she stood for the rights of all people, how once upon a time she talked about fairness and equality. Well, that Nancy is gone. Now we see someone we no longer recognize, a woman so desperate for relevance that she'll scream at strangers in public and play the victim card, all while folks like us are still fighting just to be seen as human. We are not going to let it slide. We are not going to move on. And we are dang sure not going to stop calling it out. Because history has shown us, when a white woman screams, a Black man can be unalived. And that is the America we're still fighting to survive in, no matter how many of y'all want to pretend otherwise. This is Sensible Sue signing off. Keep it sensible and safe out there.